Okay, hey everyone, it's DeagleBeagle. So today we're going to go over Braviary-Hisui. So there's different ways in which you can use it. It's psychic flying. So if you look at its stats, it has higher special attack than attack. So we would probably want to use special attacks. Esper Wing seems better than Psychic because it not only raises speed by one stage, it's a high crit rate, so it's probably worth the 10 less power. And then you would probably want to use other special attacks. So let's see what it has. Hurricane, if you use it on a rain team, maybe, but in general, I would probably use Air Slash, Esper Wing, and then it does get Icy Wind and stuff, but I might want to use Heat Wave with, well, what does Heat Wave really super affect? I know Steel, it would give it good coverage versus Steel and stuff. So Grass, it already has Air Slash 4. So Ice would give it coverage against Bug, but Bug's already covered by Flying usually, and Steel. So really just Ice and Steel, but it would give it some extra coverage. So it might be worth that. And what else? Does it get Tailwind? Yeah, it does. You could use Tailwind with it. Trying to think of what else you would even use with it. Well, offensively, it might be a little bit better with, like, I was going to say close combat, but it has lower attacks, so you could even use, like, Terra Fighting Blast with it. But for me, I would probably use, let's see, Sheer Force. Sheer Force might be pretty good, but if you're using Sheer Force, I would use Psychic instead because it has more power and it has a secondary effect. So, but that's canceled when you use Sheer Force. So for this one, I'm just gonna say maybe you could use Tinted Lens. That would be pretty good. Even though with Tinted Lens, like a third attacking move, if they predict right to resist Heat Wave, then it would be fine. But a lot of times, it would be like pointless if you could just use like Air Slash or Esper Wing instead with Tinted Lens, and it does twice as much to things that resist it. So you could probably just use Tinted Lens with it, and you could probably even use Protect over Heat Wave. That might be better. So it's hard to say how to EV it for the speed because there's not a lot of Pokemon around that speed, but it has enough speed to outspeed the common things that are like 70 uninvested speed, like King Ambit, Azumarill, Iron Hands, and stuff. So you probably don't even need to EV it. If you do EV it, you might want something around max neutral nature. For now, I would probably just give it at least enough speed actually to outspeed like Flutter Mane, and then probably the rest in bulk, and give it either Sash to outspeed something to get the Tailwind up, or I believe, you could use like Life Orb or something. It's hard to say how you want to use it, but Sash would be good versus Flutter Mane and to get the Tailwind up more commonly. So you could give it this or something else. And then if you're using Sash, then you could use a Terra type that boosts one of its stab moves. Or you could give it like Terra Grass just to wall a Spore, or let's look at one though if you're not using sash with it. If you're not using sash with it for tin and lens, I'm trying to think of what else you would use besides like life orb or citrus or something. I mean, you could use tailwind, use assault vest with it, use, sorry, no tailwind. You could give it just 4 attacking moves, but for that, for assault vest, I would be more likely to give it sheer force. Dazzling gleam. Maybe icy wind, since you don't have the tailwind. But it's, well, or defensive terra. What kind of defensive terra would you want with it? And then the speed here doesn't really need to be there necessarily since you don't have tailwind. So it's weak to ghost, dark, not bug because it's part flying, ice, rock, and electric also. So it's weak to a decent amount of things. That's why I think sash would be good on it. So it doesn't have great defenses, as good HP though, but not great defenses. And some Pokemon are really powerful against it. But with the Assault Vest, it would probably be alright. Oh, Assault Vest, actually, you would want the 4 in defense because it already has a lot of special defense. So you could use something like that, but I would actually use probably sheer force with it and use psychic if you're going down the Assault Vest route because it's made for attacking. And then icy wind, actually, I would not use that anymore since you have sheer force. No additional effect. I don't think that would be boosted by sheer force. Let's look it up on Bulbapedia. It doesn't even say which moves it boosts. Additional, oh it does. If you go to additional effect. Does hyper voice, that's not even on here. So forget that. Even though Terra Normal would it, you could use a Terra Normal defensive one though to wall a Shadow Ball. And it would be neutral to almost everything. I have seen people use Terra Normal regular Braviary before, but it's already part normal type. With sheer force, that wouldn't even make sense though, that much. So now, I would probably use a Terra Blast set with it. And then I'm trying to think of what you would use. You would probably use like fighting with it, or no, or something defensively. So what is it weak to again? Ghost. It's weak to dark, flying. You could use steel with it. You could use Terra Steel, and it would wall a lot of the things that it's weak to, and then hit like Flutter Mane pretty hard. Oh yeah, Life Orb. That's another idea with the sheer force. You might want Life Orb. I don't think I would use Dazzling Gleam with it though. It just doesn't seem to make sense. So, oh, this is the Life Orb one? So if you're using Assault Vest, it won at one shot Flutter Mane. So you could try Life Orb actually out with it and give it Protect or Tailwind. Probably Protect and just give it like this set. The Terra Steel. I think this would do pretty well, except you wouldn't have the coverage you need versus like King Ambit and stuff. So it just depends on what you want to do. If you want to have coverage though versus stuff like King Ambit, you would have to have like Heat Wave, and you could give it Heat Wave, but you would maybe want Terra Blast Steel if you're already using Terra Steel to wall stuff. But if you're not using Steel, another good typing, like I said, might be normal, even though you probably wouldn't want to use Hyper Voice with it, but I guess you could. If I'm gonna do Terra Normal though, I would probably want Tinted Lands. Use Terra Normal, Tinted Lands, Hyper Voice. So I think these are most of the ways on how to use Braviary. I don't think it's going to be that good of a Pokemon because it just doesn't seem like Esperwing is good, but I don't think that's going to quite redeem this Pokemon with its 5 weaknesses and stuff. So it's probably not going to be one of the best Hisui Pokemon.